Thank you, Edgars, for raising fundamental questions. And actually, what I would like to say is that the task of the entire first session was accomplished by this last speaker. In other words, the task was to outline the areas of research for the upcoming studies. In order for us to be able to tackle these matters and to reply the questions that were raised, I would like to invite the speakers of the session to come here and acquire seats at the panel. Whereas what I would like the audience to do is prepare their questions, be them general or detailed or whatever. Please do raise your questions. I think it is important to realize that it is very important for us to work commonly together. For this reason, I think that we have Ilva from the Agricultural University, and we have Mr. Stinchis and Gunta Luksinja from the University of Latvia, student Agnes Kusman, and I would like Laim Schneider, the lecturer from the Riga Technical University, join the panel too, because she has been working with these matters for countless years already. Most important tasks, or one of the most fundamental questions, would be probably understand on the basis of the existing study results whether we should outline this task also in the upcoming studies and work. And the setting would be as follows: whether the initial and original idea regarding micro districts on the common residential life standard for housing units of a certain type ensures people with opportunities to use the green zones or green courtyards for recreation, and whether this is all sustainable. Is this attractive? Is this competitive in combination with the entire variety of the dwelling environment? Is this topical in our common dwelling or housing life, or is this a thing or a matter which will be the competence of, say, the city council or other institutions? But is it sustainable, and can it exist for itself, and can it develop? I would like to ask this question to Edgars Bērziņš firstly, because he has been working with these matters for quite some time, and he has researched this. So in other words, how do we define these large territories? Because these territories consume up approximately 1/2 of Riga. Are they sustainable, or is this the Destiny's Child that we have to help? The answer, Sandra, I would like to clarify one thing. It's not 1/2 of the territory of Riga that we're talking about. Lolita showed it very well. It's that the half of the urban space that we're talking about, not the entire territory of Riga. But in terms of the question itself, I would like to answer as follows. The present and the future lies in the variety. The human beings have to select their living standards, and there will always be people who will want to have higher living standards, where the bonus is personal land, fresh air, and other benefits. And then there are people who are fine with just a rented apartment, or even an apartment as a property. We are a small country, and we change our living places very very seldom. We're not Americans who change their place of residence for some 12 times in their lifetimes. The question lies in the proportion, and this is the matter that we have to research. What proportions are we talking about? Which would be the best ones for us? New multi-apartment buildings can be built. They can be replaced. The old ones can be replaced with the new ones. They can be of higher quality, and the variety can be brought to the market. However, I think that the residential fund in the multi-apartment buildings is much too big. Thank you. Are there any things that you would like to add? I could contribute to this. I studied and researched Sarkandaugava, and I would like to say thanks to the students for their contribution. And in this regard, I would like to talk about the various places and the various inhabitants. If we look at the small block of built during Stalin times, then we see that people dare to enter this outdoor space with their activity, with their active performances. So we have to consider each place separately, and we have to take a look at the people who inhabit these particular places and what is their attitude and opinion of this place. Thank you, Gun. Probably is going to divert this to the chief architect of the city, or Group 93, which is conducting the pilot project. If I understand correctly, you said that the residential areas have to be structured in smaller units in the places where this business is possible. How could you comment this with regard to the pilot project? Are these units between the Vaidavas, Dzelzavas, Unis, and Stirnu places are the optimum selection, or is this space too big? I provided an answer to that in my research. I think that the pilot project has to firstly address the matter in general, but within the scope of this first phase or first step, we have to try to identify the units that actually shape the business project. And I think these will be the three ones, or maybe there will be slightly more of them. But I don't think that not all of the areas will be involved. This is a matter of agreement as well as education, and you know, this is business. There are many stakeholders and many partners involved.
And as regards to the residents, they need some kind of a person to trust, you know. Any resident, be it a collective, you know, farm, you know, needs somebody who guides them, and they need to agree on sort of their agent or the representative. It would be nice to have legal instruments because it's all about consolidation, really, about consolidating. It's not about and it's not that easy to do that when a private property is involved. Thank you, Mr. Bezinch. Do we have any more questions from the participants? Riga City Council, what Edgar's mentioned with regard to business solutions, and he also said that there are only 25% of inhabitants that are ready to implement energy efficiency projects. So that does not necessarily mean that it's the main problem is the age structure, so to say, in these residential areas. And if it's not the key problem, how to motivate people, senior citizens to sign documents that are representing the collective opinion of all the Hello, my name is Eddie Schneider, and I'm a developer, so that's why I decided to come here to meet some architects with you. Altogether, I'm responsible for some 1,000 apartments that have been built. And at the moment, I'm working for the Riga Technical University, and I'm lecturing on the energy efficiency to the future management companies or managers of the buildings, as well as engineers and so on and so forth. And I'm doing that because my background is in physics, and I've been, working on the heat insulation issues for a number of years professionally. Now, as regards to energy efficiency program and projects, so energy efficiency program is in a way structured in a wrong way. So the Latvian Investment and Development Agency funding that is available, this envelope that has, is empty, and we don't know what's going to happen next, required to generate the energy savings amounting to 25% compared to the previous energy consumption. So the energy saving that needed to be reached was 25% compared to previous consumption. And I sent a presentation to the Housing Department of the Riga City Council last week, a presentation which proved by means of calculation that you'll be able to save only 25% of the energy consumption prior to the renovation. And with the current energy prices, if the saving is only 25%, and if the energy price is something like minus 10%, 50 plus minus 10% megawatt lats per megawatt hour, the cost of renovation would just be too big. So together with the renovation credit payments, without European funds, would have to pay more than neighbors are paying for the non-renovated house in terms of management fee plus the energy cost. So our objective should be, even without 50% grant, we could renovate and generate the energy saving that would give us the energy cost plus credit less than in a house which has not been reconstructed and is in the neighborhood. And that is possible, and there are approximately 10 buildings in Riga already that in different ways, by means of providing quality supervision over the works, can achieve that. Animus Boulevard 60, and there are several other houses around Riga. So the renovation works, in other words, have to be quality enough in order to bring 50% of the heating costs and 42% of the energy saving for the whole house, and that of course would include the consumption of hot water. So we have made the calculation, so 50% of the heating costs need to be saved. There are some buildings that consume 200 kilowatt hours per square meter, very poorly insulated houses, and there are also many houses, Khrushchev period houses in Argenskons and 600 series houses that consume only 130 kilowatt hours before the reconstruction, and they must follow very closely, or must meet the target of 50% at least. In Gauy Street, it was 65% of previous consumption, the saving that was generated. I mean, the heat consumption. So that's as far as the energy efficiency goes, but I also have an opinion as a developer. And the question is very rare to share my conclusions as a developer. So 350 apartments is 119th series, buildings that were left uncompleted in the 90s. And I think that renovation is, something we can build on, really. In economy, there's this, in economic theory, there's this saying of turning defects into, advantages. And we have these residential buildings, the micro unit buildings that are all sort of structured in the residential areas, which allows us to group them according to their typology and allows us to work with them in an easier manner. In my calculation, I specifically used Agenskalna, Priedes, and walking around the residential areas of Riga. To me, it seemed that this is sort of the first choice, the prime example of these residential areas. I'm not an architect, I'm an economist a little bit, and I'm a physicist by background mainly, but to me it seemed that Agenskalna Priedes would be a good place for a pilot project, for a demo project, for us to show that the heat insulation or heat retention projects by means of renovating the heat exchange and the air exchange systems, we would be able to significantly improve the energy savings. So this heat retention projects could allow us to create an entirely new city, not even to mention architectural quality that could be improved, and this would allow us to basically change the face of the city. Now, as regards to the owners of these apartments, well, that's the toughest issue, most probably. We have limited financial resources, so it is feasible. We'll have European funds, but to convince the apartment owners and to prove to them and make them believe that that is what is going to happen is probably the hardest thing of all. And that's something that we should really study very carefully. When I was a developer, I had to think a lot about what is a good, comfortable apartment, because you can't sell anything if you don't know what you're selling. Yes, well, that's, an underlining question that we have to today's conference. And during the real estate boom, I ordered the SKDS to conduct a public survey. 3,200 people were surveyed altogether, and they were broken down. In 2005, the survey was conducted. They were broken down by their belonging to specific residential area, and we asked them to answer specific questions. I was interested in what is sort of the definition of a quality apartment according to the Rigans. So what did they think, and what about what good management is? What do they understand with energy efficiency? And 85% of the respondents mentioned that they have not really thought about the energy efficiency, so that's quite an alien term to them, and they can't really comment it. Now it's an entirely different situation, and we are better aware of all the energy efficiency issues and so on and so forth. But we must first of all understand what the owners of the multi-story buildings sort of understand. Well, what do they think? We, as professionals, are certain that we must improve the energy efficiency of the houses, and the majority of the owners also know that, and we must just need to conduct further research in order to have some material, something to work with, and something to help us persuade the others, because 75-85% of the owners of the apartment owners have to sort of sign under the energy efficiency project. But what concerns renovation of residential houses, that might be the additional bonus in a way, because people in a way want to be proud of their dwelling. And yes, thank you very much. That was indeed a big issue. What do people understand about their housing? What are their needs? What they're interested in? The fact that people would like to be proud of their dwelling is again, another proof of the satisfaction that people have, and the statistics that show how people are satisfied, which has been quite surprising to quite many researchers. If according to professional standards, we enter a low-quality environment, and people nevertheless say that they are quite satisfied with this low-quality environment from a personal point of view. So the wish to sort of be proud of their dwelling and to underline that structure is a problem. Being aware that the senior citizens are those who are a bit more passive, towards energy efficiency projects and are generally less actively participating in community projects. I wouldn't agree with that, because senior citizens are most probably going to keep living in these houses, and they are most probably our target group that we should work with, and they have more time on their hands as well. They, looking at rather decayed outdoors that we have researched, are the ones who plant flowers there, make flower beds there, they make benches there. They also spend more time outdoors with their pets and with cats, with stray cats. So they're the ones who are very passionate about this environment, whereas younger people, I don't really think that they think that this is the best sort of living environment. I don't think that they really relate themselves to this environment in their life. So this is another question, how to make the inhabitants really think of it as a permanent place of residence instead of temporary place of residence, because that will basically significantly impact the strategy for these places. Yes, I wanted to talk about the satisfaction which was presented by a couple of presenters, which also career progress, because that means if there is no demand among the inhabitants for quality living environment or living space, that means that the politicians will not be interested in that, and the Riga Council will not be interested in that. They just need to provide free public transport to get elected for the next period. So basically, this is a sort of an ethical dilemma, how and whether we are allowed to make them dissatisfied or plant any seeds of dissatisfaction in their minds, and if the people are happy, they can live happily with flower beds made out of tractor tires, if that's good for them, okay. And how to sort of make them see that it's actually a low quality environment, because they're living there and they fail to notice really deteriorated houses and so on and so forth. They haven't seen anything else, they are unable to compare, basically. That's why they are mainly satisfied. So what concerns international research on the quality of housing, this sort of phenomena, the need to be satisfied with your living environment, this is an issue that has been researched quite comprehensively, and a lot of researchers have come to a conclusion that this indicator cannot be used as, a significant indicator showing or reflecting the quality of the space or in a spatial analysis, because there is a very strong emotional sort of psychological component.
We were speaking about diversity in the sense of spatial and constructive elements, but what about activities? These areas are very monofunctional. Do you regard or you consider the possibility to bring in activities, all kind of activities, I mean businesses, even shopping, whatever?
Yes. Thank you very much. Una īlai bija par šo te jaunu funkciju.
Un viņi tad līdz ar to neko vairs nevēlās. Un tās aktivitātes arī pagalmā visas pazūd. Jo ir ļoti daudz pagalmu, kas nav.
Disappear in the courtyards. They no longer take place. Maybe sometimes they are not in a poor state, but they sometimes have nothing in there. They have only the means of transport or vehicles there. Thank you. And does the research conducted in Sarkandaugava show that there is activity necessary there? Well, certainly, this is one of the main conclusions that we drew. I think that I tried to explain this, so maybe I wasn't able to go into detail with argumenting this, but the thing is that it is not only related to Sarkandaugava, it is related to several territories. We have a high-quality process taking place in the entire society, and it manifests itself as follows. shows that an increased desire to participate or engage exists. And maybe I initially didn't see this happening. But in any case, I see that the percentage is higher than the desire. People invest their activity or perform their activity or maybe personalize the space that they live in, and they are prone to do this. And what is lacking greatly is what was found during the studies, that there are these personalized attempts to take to do something. They are not not carried out in a planned and strategic way. But in any case, the executive directorate carries out measures, and these measures are recognized by people. The requirements or what is needed to be done is not really that voluminous. The main thing that we need is the organizational work. And we have to have a community developer also in place. They could contribute, and thus we could introduce changes in many places, and thus we could unleash this potential of will which rests in people. As for the quality of the urban space, well, it cannot be given only to the inhabitants. You have to balance this intervention, but I think that by and large, this would be the opportunity for Riga. Thank you. The interests dictate the goals. And I think that in our society, the questions regarding to thermal insulation of the buildings or improvement of courtyards, well, in this regard, we don't have these aim requirements. Do you agree that this interest has to be driven through private owners? We don't have private owners in our country. We have apartment owners. These apartment owners can go on their balconies and drop cigarette butts out of their balconies, and they will not be held responsible. But in any case, in private construction, such kind of questions don't exist. And therefore, I think that this is the core task of the city council. Many things that we now view as being negative are based on the very rapid privatization process, which took place. And it changed this status legally, not mentally or socially. Therefore, this can actually serve as an illustration for the description of these districts of the city. What I would like to say is thank you to the speakers, to the panelists, as well as to the audience. And I would have to say that the task of the first session, which was to identify the key research that was carried out in this area, as well as identifying the directions for substantial further research that needs to be conducted, has been carried out, I would say, perfectly, because in all of the presentations and all of the speeches, we were able to identify further goals, further areas for research, as well as further interests. And what is more important, we have to carry on with the directions that we have taken up, and we have to expand on them. We have to build on them. We have to address not only the spatial or social matters, which we which we are tackling. But we also have to think about financial and management matters. We have to tackle legal matters. So this means that we have to seek researchers from our own universities, or we have to engage other universities from abroad in order for this area of research to expand and overlap. Thank you for attention, and now I would like to give the floor to the moderator of the next discussion. Hello. In order to finish this section, I have to address some technical matters and to announce the next panel. Thanks for the first section, which was very interesting. I completely agree with Edgar's regarding the fact that the number of research is insufficient, but a vast majority of research ends with the following question: so what? And this is exactly what I wanted to do. I want to introduce you to 5 young people in the second section who will introduce you to their approach or to their research, and they will